All right, let's talk about lodging your business activity statement, the BAS. If that whole process feels like a bit of a monster, you are in the right place. In this explainer, we're going to walk through how to get it done right inside Xero and turn what feels like a complex chore into a super simple, streamlined process.
Look, I get it. The BAS can be pretty stressful, right? It feels like a high-stakes task. But what if you could tackle it with total confidence? That's exactly what we're aiming for here. We're going to give you a clear system so you feel like you're completely in the driver's seat with your numbers.
And to do that, we're going to treat this whole thing like a mission. Seriously, we'll break it all down into 3 simple phases. First, preparation. This is where we get our data perfect. Then, execution. That's the main event, lodging and paying. And finally, the debrief, where we secure all our records for the future. Okay, let's dive into phase 1, mission prep. And honestly, this is the most critical part of the entire process. If you nail this, I promise everything else is going to be a breeze. This is all about making sure the data we're about to send over to the ATO is absolutely spot on.
So our pre-flight check has 2 really basic steps. First, you've got to make sure every single sale and every single expense for that period is actually in Xero. I mean, everything. Second, reconcile it all. You have to go through and make sure your Xero data is a perfect mirror of your bank statements. The goal here is pretty simple. We want to make sure you're not paying a single dollar more in tax than you absolutely have to.
Once all your data is in and it's all reconciled, it's time to step into what I like to call mission control. We're going to use a handful of specific reports in Xero that'll act as our main dashboard, giving us this awesome, complete overview to check that every number is lining up exactly as it should.
Okay, so inside Xero, you're going to head over to the accounting menu, click on reports, and then pull up these 4 key documents for the period you're working on. The activity statement itself, the GST reconciliation report, your balance sheet, and the profit and loss statement. Think of these 4 as your single sources of truth. Now this is where the magic happens. A reconciliation template, like the one you see here, acts as your central dashboard. It literally pulls the most important numbers from those 4 different reports we just mentioned and puts them all in one place. It's so powerful because you can see just at a glance if everything balances. If something's off, you'll see it right here and you can fix it before you lodge.
Now for a really crucial manual check. Look, Xero is smart, but it's not psychic. It doesn't automatically know about any tax you've withheld from suppliers who didn't give you an ABN. So you have to manually pop those no ABN withheld amounts in at labels W4 and W5. Once you've done that, give your key figures one last look. Your GST on sales, your GST on purchases, and the total you've withheld.
All right, our prep is done, our numbers are checked and double-checked. It is time for phase 2, the main event. And because we did all that hard work in mission prep, this part is actually the easiest. Let's get this thing lodged. This is where Xero just makes life so much easier. You can connect your Xero file directly to the ATO, which means you can lodge your activity statement with just a couple of clicks, right from the software. It totally gets rid of that old, clunky process of downloading forms and uploading them somewhere else.
Okay, once it's lodged, the final piece of the puzzle is paying what you owe. Inside Xero, you'll just use the Spend Money feature to record that payment to the ATO. And hey, here's a pro tip. After you've recorded that payment, take a look at the balances in your GST, PAG withholdings, and no ABN withholdings accounts. They should all be at 0. That's your confirmation that you've done a clean, accurate lodgement, a beautiful thing.
We've lodged, we've paid, but hold on, the mission's not quite over yet. We've got to move to our final phase, the debrief. This is all about securing your data and making sure none of that great work you just did can be accidentally messed up.
The absolute best way to protect your work is by setting a lock date in Xero. What this does is it stops anyone, and that includes you, from accidentally changing or adding transactions to a period that you've already reported on. It's kind of like sealing the records in a vault. It keeps your past data accurate and totally reliable.
And for the very last part of our debrief, let's chat about keeping records. And no, this isn't just about being compliant. Think of it as a gift to your future self. Keeping everything organized means that if you ever get audited, or even if you just need to look something up, it's all there, clear, easy, and totally stress-free.
When it comes to how long you need to keep your BAS records, there's really only one number you need to burn into your brain, and that number is 5.
So the ATO rules are pretty clear. You have to keep your records for 5 years after the transaction happened, or for 4 years after you lodge the statement, and you go with whichever one is later. And just remember, those records have to be in writing and in English.
One last little point on this. What if you stop using this particular Xero file someday?
Well, before you close it down for good, make sure you export those key reports, like the general ledger and the trial balance. This just gives you a permanent offline copy for your records, long after you've moved on.
So there you have it, a three-phase mission to absolutely conquer your BAS in Xero. If you focus on that solid preparation, a clean execution, and a proper debrief, you can make this a totally seamless part of your business. So, that leaves me with one final question for you. Thinking about your own process, what's the one thing you're going to streamline before you tackle your next BAS?